For the past 3 years, the rental market in America went completely off the rails, and landlords are in full-blown panic mode for 2025. Go ahead and hit subscribe for more deep dives into America's hit Vegas, and it hit hard and fast. The population jumped by 18%. You had families looking for more space, businesses trying to dodge taxes, and retirees chasing the sunshine. New suburbs started sprawling across the desert. Family entertainment expanded beyond gambling. The Raiders Stadium and the NHL's Golden Knights created a real, legitimate sports culture. But 2025 delivered a serious reality check. Tourism never fully bounced back. Construction costs skyrocketed. And the entertainment industry was really struggling. The way people traveled after the pandemic had permanently shifted. Tourism was down 22%, and convention cancellations just kept piling up. Business conventions went virtual, and spending on entertainment took a nosedive. The service industry jobs, the very lifeblood of Vegas, couldn't keep up with rent hikes. Then came the water restrictions, threatening any more expansion into the desert. Lake Mead's water levels were at a critical low. Casinos started offering rental discounts, show tickets, dining credits, anything to fill empty places near the Strip. But the water crisis brought up serious questions about whether a city in the desert could be sustainable. Vegas learned its hardest lesson. Biggest economic shifts, and let's get right into it. Coming in at number 10 is Austin, Texas. You can't build a permanent city on temporary fun. Number 4, Portland, Oregon. Portland's unique quirkiness was its main draw. The whole Keep Portland Weird thing drove rents sky high, until being weird just got too expensive. The hipster paradise led to an economic exodus. A 12% rent reality check proved that creativity can't pay the bills. Between 2018 and 2023, Portland was a magnet for the creative class and tech workers overflowing from Seattle. Nike expanded, Intel was growing, and there was a great startup culture. Tech jobs shot up by 31%. The food truck scene went global. It was the craft brewing capital. Its art scene was giving Brooklyn a run for its money. Keep Portland Weird became an international brand. Remote workers were choosing character over convenience. But in 2025, weird became expensive. Expensive became a bit rough, and that roughness led to an exodus. Public safety concerns started to overshadow its cultural appeal. Downtown businesses were boarding up their windows, and tech workers were packing their bags. The creative economy couldn't survive. Austin's boom was the stuff of legend, and now, so is its bust. They're going from Silicon Hills to Ghost Hills, when customers were afraid to even show up. The flow of new talent started drying up as families opted for the suburbs. You've got landlords offering free parking, amenities for pets, and even partnerships with local breweries and art studios. But the big tech companies are demanding a return to the office, which is killing the whole remote work advantage. Portland learned the hard way that a cool culture doesn't pay the bills when safety goes out the window. Even keeping it weird needs a foundation of security. The mystery in the Pacific Northwest is getting deeper. But the East Coast has an even bigger story to tell. Coming in at number 3 is Seattle, Washington. Everyone thought Seattle's tech empire was bulletproof, with Amazon, Microsoft, and Boeing creating what seemed like untouchable demand. How did the Emerald City turn into a city of ghost towers? We're seeing a 16% rent crash as even these tech giants are starting to show cracks. Between 2015 and 2022, Seattle became the global tech capital outside of Silicon Valley. All thanks to Amazon's explosive growth and Microsoft's dominance in cloud computing. The whole startup ecosystem was booming, and tech job growth surged by 45%. The South Lake Union neighborhood transformed from rents have plummeted 14% year over year, which is the steepest drop in the entire Sunbelt, an old industrial wasteland into a gleaming tech corridor. Glass towers shot up like modern-day cathedrals, with average tech salaries at $180,000, A $3,000 rent seemed pretty reasonable. Bidding wars were just normal. The Amazon effect rippled through absolutely everything. From Boeing's aerospace industry and Starbucks global headquarters to all the startup unicorns. It really felt like Seattle was unstoppable. But 2025 brought a very humbling reality check. With tech layoffs and the permanent shift to remote work, the city's appeal started to fade, and the tech bubble bursting hit Seattle the hardest. Amazon got rid of 18,000 jobs, and Microsoft cut 10,000. Remote work completely killed the energy downtown. Sure, commute times improved, but that's because nobody was commuting. Restaurants, shops, and local services just collapsed. The psychological shift for the city was devastating. The pandemic changed how people live and work, and Seattle's prestige just couldn't compete with smaller, more balanced cities. The migration out. It wasn't a huge flood, but it was relentless. Every family that leaves takes a piece of the city's stability with them. Downtown vacancy hit 31%, which is the highest ever recorded. Those gleaming towers that were once testaments to innovation now stand half empty. If you remember, between 2020 and 2023, Austin was the new tech mecca, with remote workers flooding in from California, reflecting the clouds of an uncertain future. Now, tenants are the ones negotiating for flexible leases and lower prices. The entire power dynamic has completely flipped. The Seattle skyline still looks beautiful in the mist, but underneath it all, there's a real fragility. The cracks you're seeing aren't from earthquakes. They're from an economy learning that even tech dreams have their limits. The Pacific Northwest is definitely falling, but it's nothing compared to California's collapse. And at number 2, we have San Francisco, California. If any city currently defines the word collapse, it's San Francisco. It's gone from the crown jewel of innovation to something almost unrecognizable. We're talking a 15% crash in rents, with vacancy rates shattering every single record. Those once untouchable towers are now practically begging for tenants at $3,000 a month with incentives. For decades, San Francisco was the heartbeat of American innovation. I mean, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Uber, just about every world-changing startup got its start here. Between 2010 and 2022, venture capital just flooded into Silicon Valley. The tech market cap hit $2.3 trillion. There were IPO celebrations every week, and $200,000 starting salaries were the norm. Venture capital pouring in, and billion-dollar startups popping up all over the place. The city branded itself. Housing became more of an investment vehicle than a place to live. You had $4,000 studios with 12-month waitlists and foreign billionaires. People were buying towers without even looking at them. The demand from tech workers made any price tag seem reasonable. It was the city that set the housing price floor for the whole country. But 2025 brought a total unraveling. The tech exodus never stopped, and remote work became a permanent reality. That exodus hit 87,000 workers, leaving downtown 40% empty. It was a perfect storm of everything going wrong. Tech layoffs, a spike in crime, quality of life collapsing, and a regulatory nightmare. Downtown became a canyon of quiet glass towers. Entire city blocks turned into ghost corridors. For lease signs just became part of the scenery. Meanwhile, property taxes, maintenance, and insurance all doubled, completely wiping out profits. Investors were completely trapped, unable to refinance without losing millions. And beyond the economics of it, there's the perception. The crime, the homelessness, and the general dysfunction sent renters running for the hills. The restaurants, boutiques, and galleries that gave the city its charm are now closing their doors. It's leaving a cultural vacuum where that unique character used to be, as the new Silicon Valley. And for a little while, it really lived up to the hype. Downtown cranes were all you could see. Even its famous tech identity is fading as companies ditch their headquarters for cheaper cities. Landlords who once bragged about their passive income are now practically begging for tenants. The irony is haunting. The city that set the housing price floor is now showing everyone just how far the market can fall. San Francisco's decline isn't just temporary, it's a total transformation. But even this pales in comparison to our number one. Number 1. New York City. And at the top spot, the empire is finally showing its cracks. The untouchable is falling. A 12% crash in Manhattan and a 15% collapse in Brooklyn and Queens. For generations, New York's rental market was absolutely bulletproof. No matter what the economy was doing, no matter the crisis, demand always came roaring back. But the empire of rent is finally hitting its ceiling. For 150 years, New York meant opportunity. From Ellis Island to Silicon Alley, every generation came here to chase their American dream. Between 2010 and 2023, money from all over the world flooded into Manhattan. We're talking global capital inflows of $47 billion a year, filling the skyline 24/7. Luxury towers like the Independent and 70 Rainey shot up overnight, and landlords couldn't. Billionaires Row rose above Central Park. $100 million penthouses were selling before construction was even finished. Finance ran the world from here. Media shaped the culture, and fashion set the trends. Young professionals would pay any price for a Manhattan studio because being close to the action meant everything. And international buyers, who were once the secret engine of the real estate machine, treated Manhattan like a global safe deposit box. International buyers made up 23% of luxury purchases. But 2025 brought the unthinkable. Proof that even New York has its limits. A perfect storm is now destroying the very foundation of that demand. Corporate layoffs in finance, media, and tech are eroding the renter base that always kept the city resilient. Wall Street is shedding jobs, the media industry is shrinking, and startup funding has all but dried up. The high-paying professional class is simply vanishing. Think of Goldman Sachs' massive cuts, media companies shutting their doors, and tech startups failing. At the same time, international buyers pulled back amid global instability and tax hikes. The ultra-wealthy are tightening their belts for the first time in recent memory. Jack up the rent fast enough. It got so crazy that 12-month waitlists for an apartment became totally normal. Luxury rentals on Billionaires Row are being repriced downward by hundreds of thousands. And owners of mid-market buildings are facing tough refinancing deals are just crushing cash flow. And those younger professionals who used to pay whatever it took, well, they're heading out to places like Charlotte, Nashville, and Philadelphia. The culture's still here, but fewer people can afford a ticket to the show. For the first time in decades, renters are the ones in the driver's seat. Landlords are scrambling to offer all sorts of perks. You're seeing it everywhere. Free months of rent, no security deposits, even luxury upgrades. Anything just to get tenants in the door. Developers who bet on an endless stream of money are now watching their towers look out over half-empty streets. For the smaller landlords, the whispers of foreclosure have started. The numbers just don't add up anymore. The energy that defined New York for a century is slowly scattering to hungrier, more affordable cities. New York's decline isn't some big dramatic event. It's more of a slow, steady squeeze as the city learns its own limits. For the first time in recent memory, even die-hard New Yorkers are admitting the unthinkable. The rental empire has finally hit its ceiling. And when New York struggles, but now in 2025, that fever has broken. And it broke hard. The average rent is down a shocking 14% from last year. The rest of America feels it. The financial capital, the cultural heartbeat, the gateway to the world. They're all starting to show some cracks. The skyline still sparkles, but underneath, there's a new reality. It's where ambition has finally met exhaustion. The city that never sleeps is finally taking a pause, even if it's just for a moment, to catch its breath. All across the United States, a quiet revolution is taking place. For the first time in more than a decade, tenants are finally back in control. The era of bidding wars, applying for places sight unseen, and ruthless rent hikes is coming to an end. It's being replaced by empty apartments, falling prices, and landlords who are getting desperate. From the tech exodus in Austin to New York's empire showing cracks, a clear pattern is emerging. This isn't just a simple price correction either. It's a major cultural shift. Millions of people are questioning if renting, or even owning, makes sense anymore, when costs keep rising faster than their paychecks. Developers built luxury towers, but renters just wanted a livable space. Investors were chasing big returns, while families just needed some stability. Well, now the day of reckoning has come. It turns out housing markets can't defy gravity forever. It's skyrocketed higher and faster than we've ever seen, with 60% hikes, overnight bidding wars, and families getting priced right out of their homes. All those thousands of shiny new apartments they built during the boom, a lot of them are now sitting half empty. Some cities will bounce back, while others are going to shrink. But everywhere, the lesson is the same. Even real estate empires have their limits. What happens next is going to completely reshape the map of America. Power is flowing from the coasts to the heartland, from luxury to livability, and from speculation to sustainability. This rental revolution is really just getting started. You've been watching Discover the Nation, your go-to source for cinematic deep dives into America's biggest transformations. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this video, because what's going on in the rental market right now is just the beginning of a huge economic shift. The numbers are telling the story, and that story is far from over. For the first time in a generation, the American dream of having an affordable place to live might actually be within reach again. But that's only if we can learn from the collapse that's happening as we speak. The cities that adapt are the ones that will thrive. Their fancy rooftop pools just echoing with silence. The reason? The tech bubble didn't just pop, it went off like a bomb. The ones that don't will become cautionary tales. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time as we dig deeper into the forces that are reshaping America. Until then, keep exploring the stories that make up this country. The rental wars are changing the game, and you've just had a front row seat to economic history in the making. The old empire of rent is crumbling, and from the ashes, a new housing landscape is taking shape across America. One where tenants are finally starting to gain some power, where landlords have to compete fairly, and where the dream of an affordable home might just become a reality again. This is the moment that generations of renters have been waiting for. The power dynamic is finally shifting, and the future of housing in America is being written right now. Remember to hit that. Industry giants like Meta, Oracle, and Tesla laid off so many people, they basically wiped out Austin's high-income renter pool. Subscribe button and tap the notification bell, because the economic shift we're all watching is really just getting started. More rental markets are going to crack. New trends will pop up, and we'll be right here to cover every single twist and turn of this incredible American economic story. Thanks for watching and following along as we navigate the collapse of America's rental empire. Stay tuned, stay informed, and most of all, keep exploring this country as it changes right before our very eyes. All across the country, you can see the signs. Empty luxury apartment buildings, landlords offering desperate deals, and families who can finally find a home they can afford. This isn't just a market correction. It's a fundamental shift in our society. Just like that, 67,000 tech jobs vanished. And those developers who used to boast about their 12-month waitlists, the generation that was priced out of the housing market, is finally getting its shot. Cities that became too expensive for teachers, nurses, and firefighters may finally be able to welcome them back. The American dream, which took a beating from decades of speculation, is showing signs of life again. But big changes are always messy, and this housing shakeup is no different. Fortunes that were built on the idea of endless rent hikes are now collapsing. investment strategies worth billions of dollars are completely falling apart. The old rulebook has been thrown out, and in their place, a new reality is taking hold. Tenants now have some real leverage. Landlords are being forced to compete on actual value, and markets are getting back to basics, instead of just pure speculation. This is what a more democratic housing market actually looks like. So the question isn't if this change is going to continue. The real question is,
now they're offering insane deals like 3 months of free rent and waiving security deposits.
which cities are going to adapt and which ones will fight it until the very end? History is being written right now, not in books, but in vacant apartments and falling rents. The entire rental market is starting to show cracks, and the fallout is echoing from penthouses in Miami all the way to studios in Manhattan. A major shift has begun. The only question that remains is, where will you stand in all of this when the dust finally settles? Thanks for joining us on Discover the Nation. Until next time, keep a close watch on the ever-changing American landscape. The story of our cities is, in so many ways, the story of our country. And that story is changing right before our very eyes in the last 2 years. But the real story is, they're even throwing in things like concert tickets just to get people in the door. That old nickname, Silicon Hills, feels like a cruel joke these days. In those huge downtown towers like the Independent and 70 Rainey, vacancy rates have soared to a 10-year high of 23%. Over in East Austin, which was once the core of the BDB and the city's cool creative scene, landlords are now aggressively slashing rents just to compete. And for the investors who went all in, the landlords who bought luxury condos at peak prices, expecting the good times to last forever. But now, in 2025, that whole empire is coming crashing down, and the numbers are just jaw-dropping. The profits are gone. Their returns have completely evaporated, crushed under the weight of high-interest loans and tenants who are nowhere to be found. But for renters, this is the break they've been waiting for. A city that got crazy expensive almost overnight is finally starting to crack. The lesson from Austin is pretty clear. The city that shot up the fastest is coming down just as hard, and the shockwaves are hitting the entire Sun Belt. But if you think that's something, wait till you hear about Miami. Number 9, Miami, Florida. Miami's rental market didn't just boom, it went into overdrive. It went from a crypto paradise to a financial nightmare, with an 11% drop in rent and vacancies popping up everywhere. It was all fueled by people leaving big cities during the pandemic, a flood of crypto money, and international investors looking for a piece of the good life. The city quickly turned into a playground for the super rich and the work-from-home crowd. Between 2020 and 2022, rents just skyrocketed by over 60%. Pushing a lot of the local folks out and turning every downtown high-rise into a monument to living large. The median rent shot up from $2,100 to $3,360 in just 2 years. From the glitzy high-rises in Miami to the iconic towers of New York, landlords are starting to sweat. But now, in 2025, the party's over, and there's no denying the crash. Average rents have dropped 11% from last year. And you're seeing for rent signs all over Brickell, downtown, and Miami Beach. Those super hyped luxury towers, the ones with the amazing ocean views and infinity pools, are now advertising. Things like free parking, no security deposit, and even $2,000 gift cards just to get people in the door. And it's not just that fewer people want to rent. Rising costs are absolutely killing landlords' profits. Insurance rates have tripled after all the hurricane damage, leaving a lot of property owners in the red. On top of that, HOA fees have gone through the roof as buildings rush to comply with Florida's new safety laws. We're talking $50,000 special assessments that are just wiping out owners. The bottom line? Thousands of investors are bleeding money every single month. For a lot of them, the game is already over. Condos that were once going for $900,000 are now selling for $700,000. or they're just sitting on the market, completely unsold. And the Airbnb hosts who were making a killing on tourists are now getting out of the business. We're seeing rents drop 15%, vacancies are through the roof, and desperate deals are everywhere. 3 months of free rent is becoming the new normal. As tourism slows down and the cost of upkeep eats away at any profit they might make. Even the foreign investors, who have been Miami's financial safety net for years, are starting to pull out, spooked by the increasing risk of major storms and these never-ending special assessments. Sure, the view from a high-rise still looks incredible. That turquoise water, the whole skyline sparkling in the sun. But behind all that glamour, the numbers just don't add up anymore. It's a classic cautionary tale from Miami. When the price of luxury gets completely disconnected from reality, even paradise can fall apart. All right, number 8 on our list, Atlanta, Georgia. Now, Atlanta was supposed to be a different story. The safe bet in the South. You had a booming job market, housing was actually affordable, and people were moving there in droves from both coasts, which made it a developer's dream. So, they all rushed in, pouring billions of dollars into new apartment buildings all the way from Midtown to Sandy Springs. Between 2021 and 2024, over 50,000 new units came onto the market, which was way more than the city could handle. That whole build it and they will come philosophy. So today we're counting down the top 10 cities where this rental bubble is bursting in the most spectacular way. Created a total feeding frenzy. But now, here in 2025, that boom has officially turned into a bust. Rents have dropped 9% compared to last year, more places are sitting empty, and you can bet developers are starting to sweat. Those new high-rises that used to have a waiting list are now half vacant. But there's more to the story than just too many apartments. Paychecks just aren't keeping up, and inflation is taking a huge bite out of everyone's budget. Companies are tightening their belts, which is really hurting the job market. To get people in the door, landlords are offering 3 months of free rent, plus free parking and 0 security deposits. They're doing whatever it takes to attract renters again. The highways are still jammed with traffic, but people's bank accounts just can't handle the high cost of living anymore. Atlanta learned a tough lesson. Even a sure thing can get overbuilt. Just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. But what happened there is nothing compared to the situation in Phoenix. Coming in at number 7, Phoenix, Arizona. The growth in Phoenix was just relentless, spreading out across the... And you'll want to stick around for number 1 because what's going on there is going to completely change how you see. Endless desert, like a wildfire, turning it from a Sunbelt success story into a serious cautionary tale. We're talking an 8% rent collapse as reality finally set in. Between 2020 and 2023, Phoenix seemed to capture the American dream with its affordable homes, no state income tax, and endless sunshine. People flocked in from California looking for more space and a lower cost of living. It felt like new master-planned communities were popping up every hour. You could get luxury amenities and resort-style living for just a fraction of what it cost on the coast. The population shot up by 15%. But then, 2025 delivered a harsh reality check. Record-breaking heat waves, new water restrictions, and an infrastructure under serious strain. Think 129-degree heat records, with AC bills averaging $400 a month. The culprit? Climate change is making desert living practically unsustainable. We're talking 115-degree days that last for weeks. They even banned people from refilling their swimming pools. Golf courses started turning brown, and the infrastructure just couldn't handle the pressure. Rolling blackouts started becoming a regular thing. Landlords couldn't keep up with the sky-high utility costs, so renters began heading back to places with milder weather. The American housing market. This is basically economic warfare. And for the first time in a decade, it looks like renters are finally getting the upper hand. Phoenix learned a lesson the indigenous people of the area always knew. The desert has its limits. A cheap apartment doesn't mean much when you're fighting the climate every day. But as bad as that sounds, Denver's fall from its peak was a shock to everyone. At number 6, we have Denver, Colorado. Denver's boom was basically the new Colorado gold rush. It had it all: legal cannabis, an outdoor lover's paradise, and a massive tech scene. But those mile-high dreams came with mile-high prices. The city got a 10% reality check on rents. Between 2019 and 2024, Denver was the place to be for young professionals. You had legal weed, world-class skiing, and the freedom to work from anywhere. The cannabis industry just exploded, growing to $2.2 billion. Tech companies moved in to attract and keep top talent. It was the capital of craft breweries, a paradise for outdoor gear, and a hub for progressive politics. It was the perfect storm to draw in young professionals. But in 2025, reality hit hard. The cannabis market got oversaturated. Tech layoffs started piling up, and the cost of living was just crushing people's dreams. That cannabis gold rush turned into a nightmare of oversupply. Prices plummeted by 60%. This is Discover the Nation, and today we're pulling back the curtain on the cities where rent is in a free fall, and dispensaries were closing down every week. The tech layoffs sent ripples through the entire local economy, and that remote work advantage faded fast. Vanished when everyone started working from home. Landlords were offering perks like ski lift tickets and brewery credits, and discounts on hiking gear. Basically anything connected to the mountain lifestyle. But young professionals started choosing cheaper mountain towns or just leaving Colorado altogether. The average rent dropped from $1,800 to $1,620. Denver learned the hard way that a great lifestyle alone doesn't pay the rent. Even paradise needs a stable economy. But that was nothing compared to what went down in Las Vegas. Number 5, Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas bet the house on never-ending growth, and for once, the house lost. Sin City became an economic ghost town. A 13% rent drop showed that the ultimate gamble had failed. Between 2020 and 2024, Vegas became more than just entertainment. It became a place people called home. No state taxes, relatively affordable, and that 24/7 energy. The California Exodus.